Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the Week 6 NFL slate on DraftKings. Going to go through each position and talk about some of my favorite plays on this Week 6 slate. Of course, I will give my 5 core plays. These are 5 guys that I am going to have a lot of exposure to in the lineups that I make. And I'll talk about why I like those guys so much. And then I'll obviously go through each position and talk about some of my favorite plays at each position. But before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. Definitely means a lot. If you are new to the channel, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Be sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. Also, make sure you click the bell next to the subscribe button. That will notify you every time that I upload. So if you don't want to miss out on any new videos, you can do that as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at this Week 6 slate. Start off at quarterback and look up top here where we do have Matt Ryan, who is the most expensive quarterback on this Week 6 slate. He gets a great matchup at home against Tampa Bay. I think Matt Ryan is going to be a guy that I have a lot of exposure to. We'll talk about Julio Jones when we get to receiver, but I love that quarterback-receiver combo. Matt Ryan is sort of a core play for me this week. In my tournament lineups, I expect him to be one of my highest exposed quarterbacks this week. It's just such a good spot. This Tampa Bay defense is so bad, especially against the pass. Ryan should have a field day here. He's at home where we know the Falcons, and Ryan included, play really well at home. They put up points at home. Just a great spot for Matt Ryan. I think he's a great play here. If Tampa Bay can keep up with the Falcons, this game does have some shootout potential if Tampa Bay can score points. I like some plays from Tampa Bay, so definitely a game stack I think makes a lot of sense in this game. Matt Ryan's probably my favorite quarterback if I'm paying up. Cousins, for me, I'll have exposure to. I'll have some exposure to Big Ben as well, but they're not going to be guys that I go insanely heavy on. Matt Ryan's definitely going to be the guy that I have the most exposure to out of the expensive quarterbacks. Then in the mid-range, there aren't a ton of plays that I love. I think Andy Dalton's probably my favorite play, like in that mid-tier, like from 6,300 down to like 6K. Dalton's going to be a guy I have some exposure to. I don't expect to have much exposure to Andrew Luck or Newton or Jared Goff. I'll have some Rivers, but not like a ton. Jameis Winston's probably my favorite value quarterback, especially in this game that should have points scored. I expect the I expect the Bucs to be trailing, so they're going to have to throw the ball. Jameis Winston is going to start for the Bucs in this game, and he is 5,800, really good value in a game that does have some shootout potential. So I like Winston at 5,800. I like Rivers at 5,900. Those are probably my 2 favorite value plays. I don't like a lot of the really cheap options. Like Baker Mayfield might be in play here at home against the Chargers at 5,500. Blake Bortles on the road against Dallas might be a play as well, but I don't expect to have a ton of exposure to those guys. I'm really going to stick to like paying up for either Ryan, Cousins, Roethlisberger, or going to like Rivers, Winston as value plays. Those are kind of going to be the core quarterbacks for me. Like I don't expect to have a ton of exposure to like a lot of different quarterbacks this week. I think I'm going to stick to about 5 or 6 that I spread around in multiple lineups. So I think that is it for quarterback, at least the ones that I'm going to be playing this week. So let's go ahead and move on to running back. Where up top we have Todd Gurley, who is 10K on DraftKings. He is very expensive this week. I don't think I'm going to be playing Gurley in a ton of lineups at this price tag. I'll have some exposure just because Todd Gurley is so good, but like a core play for me, he is definitely not a core play for me at this price tag. But it does obviously depend on like if we get value throughout the week. There is some value that we could get from the Rams because some of their receivers are injured and could miss. That could open up value plays. It just kind of all depends how the slate goes. If there's not a lot of value come Sunday, it's going to be hard to play Gurley, and I won't have much exposure to Gurley. But if there are a lot of really cheap options that make it easy to fit Gurley in, I'll definitely have some exposure. But I still like some of the cheaper options we have that are like 2K cheaper. You got Christian McCaffrey, who's getting 20, 25 touches a game, has become a bell cow running back pretty much for the Panthers. 8,300, I don't mind him this week. You got Melvin Gordon at the same, or $100 cheaper, who I expect to be more popular than McCaffrey. And I think Melvin Gordon is a good play this week. But like this 7K range, I really like some of the plays here. So Joe Mixon at 7,500, I expect to have a lot of exposure to here. I think this game does have some sneaky shootout potential between the Steelers and the Bengals. Joe Mixon should definitely provide great value here for this Bengals team. He's coming back from injury, he came back from injury in Week 5, I should say, and there was concerns that he wouldn't get a full workload, but he still got 25 touches in that game. With Gio Bernard out, I'm going to expect Mixon to get a ton of volume. He's going to be an every down running back for this Bengals team. He should get at least 20 to 25 touches, could potentially even get 30 touches. He's involved in the passing game, which is really valuable on DraftKings, getting a running back that can catch passes out of the backfield. Great play for me is Joe Mixon this week. If you want to play Connor on the other side of that game, I don't mind him, but I really like Mixon. I just think Mixon has a lot of upside in general. Zeke Elliott, I feel like it might be popular this week because he's $7K. That's a really cheap price tag for Ezekiel Elliott. Jacksonville is definitely much better against the pass than they are against the run, but I still think I'd rather play Connor and Mixon over Zeke this week. Just feel like Mixon, Connor, these guys have a lot of upside, have a lot of touchdown potential. And then probably my favorite, like cheaper running back, he's not insane value, but 6,400, TJ Yeldon is going to be a really good cheaper option, I should say. He's not like great value, but at 6,400, he can still provide 20, 25 DraftKings points and be a good play at this price tag. We've seen the last 2 weeks when Leonard Fournette has missed, Yeldon's getting all the carries. He's getting a ton of work in the passing game as well. I believe Corey Grant is going to be out for this game, which should just set up for even more opportunity for TJ Yeldon. And what makes him so valuable on DK is, as you just see right here, 10 targets, Week 5 against KC. Jacksonville is playing from behind. Yeldon's going to get a ton of work out of the passing game. If they're ahead, he'll get some carries as well. Just has a lot of potential to, provide great value on this price tag. So I really like TJ Yeldon at 6,400. I think he is a really good option here against Dallas. And that's probably it for me at running back. I don't love a lot of the cheap plays at this position. Devontae Freeman I would really like here against Tampa Bay, but we don't know how much work he's going to get. In his first game back from injury last week, he didn't get much carries at all, only got 8 carries for 32 yards, 2 catches for 9 yards. Really disappointing game from Freeman. Until we see him get 15 to 20 touches, I'm not going to be on Devontae Freeman, but this is a good matchup for Freeman at 6K. He could be an option, but I don't think I'm going to be going there. David Johnson's insanely cheap, but he's facing the Vikings on the road. I don't think that's a good enough matchup for me to where I'd want to go to David Johnson this week. Value plays are really thin at running back in my opinion. I don't love a lot of the cheap plays. Maybe Latavius Murray at 4,700 if Dalvin Cook can't play. Cook was out last week. Murray had a decent game, not a great game. Got 11 carries for 42 yards, 2 catches for 14 yards, 7.6 DK points. So it really wasn't that great of a game. But against Arizona, you would imagine the Vikings can get a lead here. They're going to be playing ahead. So if they give Murray some carries, or he should get carries as long as they're up and playing from ahead. At 4,700, could be a value play you look to. Lamar Miller's expected to play this week, but he's still listed as questionable. Didn't play last week. If he's out, Alfred Blue is probably the best value play on this slate, but I expect Lamar Miller to play, so I don't think we're going to be able to use Blue anyway. So that's really it for running back for me. I think the value this week's going to come at receiver. You're going to have to try and find some cheap plays at receiver, and we'll talk about some cheap plays I like. I like those cheap plays at receiver, so that way you can get in McCaffrey, Gordon, Connor, Yeldon, Mixon. You can get those guys into your lineups playing those cheap receivers. But let's go ahead and move on to receiver and look up top here where we have Antonio Brown, 8,700 against the Bengals on the road. AB for me this week, I'll have some exposure to, but he's definitely not my favorite receiver. I don't love him this week. Like I said, I love Matt Ryan, so Julio Jones is going to be the guy for me. Julio's getting to face the Buccaneers at home. This is just such a good matchup for Julio Jones. This Buccaneers secondary is insanely bad. They just don't have any good corners that could stop Julio. I know Julio hasn't been great this year. He's been pretty inconsistent, but this is still one of the best receivers in the league. Like I said, it's just such a good matchup. He's at home, where we know Julio plays well at home. We know the Falcons play well at home. Just a great spot for this Julio to Ryan stack. I think it could be the top scoring stack on this slate. And this is definitely going to be the quarterback receiver stack that I probably had the most exposure to this week. Julio is 7,900 in this matchup. Does feel a little bit underpriced compared to some of the other receivers we have on the slate. Julio is definitely my favorite receiver if I'm paying up, but there are other good plays here. AJ Green, especially if you game stack that Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game, AJ Green at 8K is for sure in play for me this week. If you want to game stack the Tampa Bay-Atlanta game, I do like Mike Evans here. If you want to play Winston, Evans, and then play Julio on the other side, I think that makes a ton of sense. You could also look to Cameron Brate at tight end. He's probably one of the best values at tight end this week. We'll talk about him when we get there. But definitely some good receivers I like as well. In the mid-range, there are some decent plays here you can find. You could obviously play Juju if you're game stacking that Pittsburgh-Cincy game. I don't think Juju's like a core play for me this week, but I will for sure have exposure, especially in game stacks. You got Keenan Allen at 7,500 against Cleveland. You could potentially go there, especially if you are playing Rivers and you want to stack him. Robert Woods is probably going to see a ton of targets this week if Cooks and Kupp cannot play. But Woods did get priced up. He is 6,900, which is kind of expensive. But I expect him to get a ton of volume as long as those two guys are out. Other mid-tier plays we could maybe target. I don't love Calvin Ridley just because the guy is not playing enough snaps. He's very touchdown dependent. We've kind of seen it, or we saw it last week. He only got 5 targets, 4 catches for 38 yards. He didn't play a ton of snaps. Sanu has been playing more snaps than Ridley. If Ridley doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably not going to be a great play. So I think I'll be avoiding him, especially when he's priced up to 6,300. If he was like 4,500, I'd play him, but at this price tag, I think there are other plays we can go to. Tyler Boyd being one of them at 6K. If you think A.J. Green struggles with Joe Hayden, I don't think he is, but if you think A.J. Green or Joe Hayden's going to give A.J. Green some troubles, then Tyler Boyd at 6K could be a good option. Deshaun Jackson's here at 5,900, especially if you want to game stack that game. He is in play for me this week. Then getting to the value, trying to find some cheap plays, maybe 5K and under that we could look to. Like I said, Mohamed Sanu, he's playing more snaps than Ridley. He's 4,800, could be a good value play, especially in lineups maybe where you don't play Julio Jones. You could go to Sanu at 4,800. But the really good value play I see is Josh Reynolds. I expect Josh Reynolds to be pretty popular this week as long as Kupp and Brandon Cooks are out. Josh Reynolds should get a ton of volume, should see a lot more snaps. Last week he did get two catches for 39 yards, got 3 targets. Once Cooks and Kupp got injured, Reynolds came into the game, pretty much played as the number 2 receiver. If we just look at the depth chart for the Rams at receiver, if I can pull up their receivers real quick here, let's go. Receiver, obviously they have Robert Woods as their number 1 receiver, and then Josh Reynolds is going to become the number 2 receiver as long as Cooks and Kupp are out. Those two guys are out. Expect Woods to get a lot of targets. I expect Reynolds to get at least probably 6-7 targets, and at that price tag, getting 6-7 targets, getting some probably red zone looks as well. Josh Reynolds at 3,900 is probably one of the best value plays on the slate. I expect him to be popular, but I will still have a lot of exposure in tournaments. We saw it last week with MVS. Even though guys are popular, when they're cheap, if they get 7-8 targets at 3K, at 3,500, 3,900, you have to consider them, especially with how cheap they are, with what it allows you to do at other positions. Playing a guy like Josh Reynolds this week, as long as he remains a value play, allows you to pay up for running back, pay up for Julio Jones, whoever you want to pay up for. Love Reynolds for value. But let's go ahead and move on to tight end. Definitely another position where I'm trying to find some cheap plays, and I think there are cheap plays this week. I don't love the expensive options. Like Eric Ebron, he's not even that expensive at 5,400, but I don't expect to be really paying up a tight end here. This mid-range with like David Njoku, Cameron Brate, Austin Hooper, these are going to be the guys that I'm probably looking to this week, especially Cameron Brate at 3,700. He's probably my favorite tight end. We know O.J. Howard's not going to play for this game, so Cameron Brate should see at least 4 to 5 targets, should see plenty of opportunity in the red zone, so definitely has touchdown potential. He did get priced up to 3,700, but he's still a pretty good value play. We know Jameis Winston is going to look to Brate. Brate was a really good tight end before O.J. Howard got a ton of snaps. And now that Brate's going to be the number 1 tight end with Howard out, we definitely have to consider him at 3,700. Austin Hooper as well. He's got a lot of targets last week. I don't expect him to get 12 targets like he did last week, but he is still a guy we could look to at 3,500, especially against this Tampa Bay secondary. Definitely another value play I like. I'd probably prefer Brate, but Hooper is there as well. Njoku is there at 3,800. Those are going to be the guys I really stick to. C.J. Uzomah at 3K could potentially be an option since Tyler Eifert's done for the season. I think Tyler Kroft got injured as well, so Uzomah should be looking at pretty much all the snaps at tight end for the Bengals, and he is only 3K. Another value play you could consider. But I think that is it for tight end, so let's go ahead and look at defense real quickly. Start up top. The Vikings defense, definitely probably my favorite defense on the slate if you can fit them in. But I've already told you guys this a ton of times. I like to go cheap at defense because I want to pay up for the studs. Defense and tight end are usually positions I can pretty much punt and find decent values. So going cheap, the Dolphins at home against the Bears really stick out to me. I don't believe Trubisky's a good quarterback. I know he had a really good game last week, but I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. We know he's turnover prone. He'll throw picks. He'll take sacks. So at 2,600, the Dolphins defense at home is probably the defense I'm going to have the most exposure to. I think the Titans at home against the Ravens, against Joe Flacco, who is not that great of a quarterback, at 2,500, don't mind the Titans defense as well. Those are probably the defense I'm going to really stick to just when it comes to value. You do have the Raiders down here at 2,100 against Russell Wilson, who we know has been taking a ton of sacks this year. That Seahawks offense just hasn't been great at all. If you're just wanting to straight punt this position, I don't mind the Raiders at 2,100. For me, it's the Dolphins, it's the Titans. Those are probably my favorite two defenses in that cheaper mid-range. Even the Jets at 2,900 could be a play as well at home against the Colts. But yeah, I think that's it for defense, and I think that's it for this Week 6 slate, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, and hopefully this video did help you. If you enjoyed, just make sure you click that like button. I do really appreciate it, guys. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button as well. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell. And shortly after this video goes up, I will have my showdown video for the Thursday night football game. Going to be making a video on that game. So if you want to check that out, it should be up a couple hours after this video goes up. I would appreciate it if you would give that video a like as well. But yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Good luck on this Week 6 slate, and we will see you back again with my showdown video for Thursday night football. Peace.